Well, in 2017, my husband and I have been so blessed with this Point Blank Safety Services business. We're now a multi-million dollar company and, employ 200 officers. And, we just looked at each other and we said, how can we do more? How can we pay this forward or pay it back, if you will?
You're listening to Wake Up with Patty Catter.
Wake Up with Patty Catter.
Where each week, Patty will interview guests that will motivate, encourage, and inspire you. Now, here's your host, Patty Catter.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to my show, Wake Up with Patty Catter. And I, of course, am Patty Catter. Today, I have a lovely lady, Stacey, with me, Stacey Magovern. Welcome, Stacey. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I have not had the pleasure yet of interviewing a police officer's wife. Normally, I've either interviewed the police officer or military or other different careers, but I really want to hear your perspective, and I know our guests do too. So first of all, I'd like you to tell our listeners just a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, where you're from.
Sure, absolutely. I grew up in Abilene, Texas. And if you're not familiar with Texas, Abilene is a really small town. They call it the Bible Belt. So there's a church on every corner. And if it wasn't for an Air Force base and a couple of colleges, there would be no Abilene. There's no industry, nothing like that. It's just really an Air Force town. Mm-hmm. But my mom, who I called the original entrepreneur, I was raised with her starting opening her first retail store when I was 5 months old. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in retail, grew up with entrepreneurial parents, and just always thought or expected that I would eventually own my own business. Mm-hmm. So really, I can remember back 12 years old in the back room of my mom's store, wrapping presents at Christmas time and checking in merchandise and that sort of thing. So just always knew that it was sort of in my blood, if you will, the entrepreneurial bone, and just always knew I wanted to do my own thing one day.
So did you have one of those little cash registers when you were a kid?
Of course.
For those videos by Play School.
Yeah, of course. And I would sit behind the counter and pretend like I was ringing people up and, all that kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely.
So fast forward a few years and you meet your now husband, right?
Right. Yeah. In 2005, I was actually a sales rep for Nextel, if anyone remembers the cell phone with the walkie-talkie built in. And I sold phones. Yeah, I sold those phones to his police department. And so that's how we met, because I came in to do a training on the phones. I had just sold them, and that's how we met. And he immediately the next day was in my Nextel store trying to get a personal phone of his own.
Oh, so, I'm sure. He was probably, those Verizon commercials. They're like, can you hear me now?
Right. He was trying to make me hear him now for sure. For sure. He showed up to pick up his next cell phone with flowers. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. That was pretty quick.
Yeah. He had some game back then.
I guess so, huh? Oh my goodness. So you have this organization. Actually, it looks like you have two organizations that you help with. Is that right?
Yeah, in 2012, we started Point Blank Safety Services. And just from the perspective of being a police wife, I saw my husband need off-duty work to make the ends meet and to help us be able to afford anything extra over a police salary. And I came up with this idea. I said, there really should be a marketplace out there for police and off-duty work where they can go pick up as much or as little off-duty work as they want. And then a schedule so they know what days they're working and they know when they're going to be off and they can plan and they can budget and all that sort of thing. And so I took my idea and made it a reality and won our first contract back in 2014. And it's just continued to grow ever since. So we now employ over 200 police officers that work for us in their off-duty time. And we have highway contracts all over the state of Texas. So our officers are, if you drive by a highway construction project and you see police blocking a lane or following down a striping vehicle or something like that, those are what our guys do. They're trying to keep the construction workers safe as well as the citizens safe.
That's interesting. And one of the points that you made was the salary of the police officers. It's insane to me how little amount our heroes are given for basically sacrificing themselves for our safety and freedom. So I think,
Absolutely. And in the smaller departments, it's really not very much at all. A lot of our officers come from smaller departments, and they actually make more working for us than they do in their full-time job, which is, it's really sad that it's like that, but it is.
now, do you serve just the state of Texas right now?
Just the state of Texas.
Mhm.
Our situation was really unique because in Texas, a police officer has jurisdiction all over the state. So when we get a highway construction project that might run through several counties, because they have full jurisdiction, they're able to work that.
Oh,
Where in a
wow.
lot of other states, police are only have jurisdiction within their county
Mhm.
sometimes. So it's hard to take this idea and put it out there in some other states.
Right. And when I say just Texas, that's kind of a broad, big
Right.
area. Texas could be its own country almost.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we cover a big area. We have all of Dallas Fort Worth, all the way down to Austin, all of West Texas, East Texas. So it's about 200 officers at this point.
Wow. And if you're a police officer out there listening, how would they get involved in your business? How do they find you?
Sure, if you need off-duty work, you just go to pointblanksafety.com, and there's actually a link that says officer sign up page.
Mhm.
So you put in all your information, and once we receive that email, we send you out a packet that we need completed by you and your department, saying that your chief or your sheriff allows you to work this off duty.
Mhm.
Real simple
Mhm.
process, and we're always needing officers. So, and you can work as much or as little as you want, as
Mhm.
many days as you choose or you need to, help your family.
Wow, that's really neat. Now, the Blue Family Fund, what is that?
Well, in 2017, my husband and I have been so blessed with this Point Lake Safety Services business. We're now a multi-million dollar company and, employ 200 officers. And, we just looked at each other and we said, how can we do more? How can we pay this forward or pay it back, if you will?
Mhm.
And so we decided to fund and start our own nonprofit, which is Blue Family Fund. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, and we've been totally self-funded to date. Obviously, we take donations, but we're still getting the exposure. We're still getting the word out about what we do.
Mhm.
We provide financial assistance to families of fallen or injured officers or first responders, and we provide scholarships for dependents of first responders that want to pursue a higher education.
Wow.
So, in our short little 2 years, we've given out 3 scholarships, and we've been able to help 7 families.
Wow.
Um,
That is amazing. Some of the most giving people I've ever met are in law enforcement, military, those who serve our communities, their families serve too. Um,
Absolutely, and it's a tight family. It's very loyal, and I say that some of the most loyal people are police. It may take you a while to win their trust, but once you do, yeah, they're a friend for life for
Mhm.
sure.
It's true. I was going over, I had 23 applications come in yesterday, and somehow yours was stuck in there. I'm not sure when it was submitted, but as soon as I noticed police, I was like, oh, I don't know what this is about, but I'm doing it. And so I'm reading. And my grandfather retired from the Flint Police Department back in 74. So the year I was born, he retired.
Oh
But I
wow!
heard all the old stories.
Right?
Um, and then my dad, he volunteered for the sheriff's mounted unit in Genesee County, Michigan. And I was a police reservist in Saginaw, Michigan, which a lot of people don't know this who are watching, but Saginaw, Michigan it was, and I think it still is, the number one most violent city per capita.
Oh wow!
But when you're working law enforcement and you're building relationships within the community, you don't see it like that. You're seeing it as the people that you're helping. You don't see it as these bad people living there. So,
Right?
and then of course, my husband was a police officer and he was a diver on the sheriff's department team. So
Oh
when
wow!
I noticed your organization and all that you're doing, I was so in awe and inspired and had to have you on the show. Thank you for
I
what you're
appreciate that.
doing.
Yeah.
Um, I want to hear a little bit. I know we don't go into huge details about books because I want to get into the nitty gritty of who somebody is, but I also think it's important. You have a book coming out soon.
Mhm.
Actually, around the time that this podcast airs, I think your book will be out. So if we could talk about that quickly, what is that book going to look like?
It's really just my story and some scalable tips to help a entrepreneur do sort of what I've done, sort of how I got where I am and what steps I took to scale this business. It is a co-authored book that's coming out, so there'll be I think 11 other stories in there like mine. So it's not just me, but really it's called Money Matters is the company that's producing it. So it really if you're interested in just learning how other people have gotten to where they are, I hear so many times, you must have been really lucky or you must have inherited it. And it's just so not true. Luck had nothing to do with it. It's a lot of hard work. I spent 2 years building Point Blank Safety. I started out as just a name and a business card, if you will, and built it to what it is today. And no one handed it to me. It wasn't luck. It was sheer tenacity and believing in my idea and being determined to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I like to share the story because it is very motivating to people. They don't realize sometimes how hard, it was 2 years of my life, which 2 years, I look at it this way in the big picture of life, 2 years is not that long,
Mm-hmm.
but it was 2 years that I worked day and night trying to get it going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it is hard work. And, especially, you have a lot of emotional things going on too, because with your husband being a police officer, that in itself, no, you're not out on the streets. But if you happen to turn on the news, sometimes for me, I would just shut it off because I'm
Right.
thinking, it's talking about some officer who's injured
Mm-hmm.
or something going on out there that you just don't really want to hear about because that your loved one might be out there involved in all that, or a friend, because especially, so many police officers and
Right.
are, like you said, it is a very tight community. Is like for me coming from a police family, I hear of a police officer and if they need help, you automatically want to listen and help if you can. So the Blue Family Fund, that is also in the state of Texas.
Well, we're started here, yeah. So it's a state of Texas nonprofit, but and so far we've only helped officers in the state of Texas, just because of funding. I mean, we're new, and like I said, we've been self-funding it to date. So the more exposure we get, the more people learn about who we are. We're hoping to be able to expand to other states and help with other families of fallen officers or injured officers. A lot of people don't realize that when an officer is fallen or injured in the line of duty, yes, usually there is some sort of payout, for that happening. I mean, typically, but it might take 6 months, 8 months, whatever, before the family sees any of those funds. So, we've kind of found our niche is that we kind of step in and kind of bridge that gap, because a lot of times the officer may have been the only source of income for the family. So
Exactly.
that 8 months before there's a payout or before anything happens is a really crucial time. And, the bills keep coming, whether out or not. So we really want to step in and just relieve that stress. I mean, you have enough stress after someone passes or gets severely injured, not to have to worry about your bills as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Where can people find you online with your social media?
I'm pretty much everywhere. It's just at Stacey Magovern. If you want to just learn more about me, or it's Point Blank Safety Services and Blue Family Fund. We're on all of Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and I'm newly now on TikTok. So,
oh wow, that's exciting!
I love TikTok.
I love watching it. I haven't really produced any videos for it because I'm watching all these people and I'm thinking, how are they doing this? Like, this is really cool.
So fun.
Yeah.
I'm self-proclaimed hilarious on TikTok.
Well, I'm going to definitely add you as a friend then.
Oh, cool. Please do.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Stacey, for being on the show. And thank
Sure.
you so much for everything that you're doing, because it's people like you who make it worth living. You know what I mean?
Oh, thank you.
There's a lot of people out there that are doing good. And I really like to highlight stories like you. You are awesome. You're doing great. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Wake Up with Patty Catter. Be sure to visit www.pattycatter.com for the latest articles, podcasts, and swag.